Hello, this is Developer Darkside, and today's topic is how important is your first developer job? So, I wish someone told me this information once I got out of university because it would have changed my career path a lot, and I think it would help you as well, give you insight into your developer career because the developer career isn't as rosy and as high paying as everyone say they are. So I just want to give everyone insight about it. So if you're watching this video, you mostly just graduate from college or university and you have a student loan to pay off. Your coding ability is probably very bad because you just learn about theory in university, in college. And if you're lucky, you have a few co-op jobs under your belt, so you look a little bit better than other candidates. So from here, you have 3 steps. You can either go get your PhD or master's, go grab your first developer job you can, especially if you don't have any co-op experience, or get recruited by your co-op company. So here is where the paths really differ. So if your goal is to become a researcher and you just want to learn how to do new technology, and you aren't really concerned about making cool products and stuff, then go get your master and PhD. So a master's usually takes 2 years, and then PhD usually takes 4 years, and then you have to do a postdoc. So if you want to go that route, you can. And this is usually the easiest route for you to get a job at Google or Amazon or Microsoft, because they would just hire you out of your master or PhD without having to check your work experience, and I think that's the best way if you want to go that route. Some people got to do a co-op term and then they think that once they finish they can join their co-op company. But one thing you should always remember is that your first job is super important because it dictates which field of development you are going to go in, and to change fields you have 2 choices. One, you know a lot of people and you tell them that you want to switch into their field and they help you use their connections to get you a job in that field. Or your company decides to change technology and then you get to move with the company. And I'll get more into this later. The last option is that you get a developer job that you can get, and like I said before, you should decide on your field very carefully because it will dictate the next 5 to 10 years of your developer career. So the fields that you can go into are front-end development, which is making HTML, CSS, JavaScript websites. There is back-end development, where you make the back-end server for a platform and any work that has to go into that. There is WordPress development. So there's a lot of these small agencies where all they do is make WordPress sites for clients and then sell them for a cheap price, like $1,000 or $2,000, and that's what they do for the whole career. Then there is DevOps, where you manage the infrastructure for your company. So you deploy your application onto the Linux server, you do security for your platform, you measure the performance of your platform, anything to do with the environment of your platform. Then there's mobile development, where you develop Android apps, iOS app, Windows apps, any apps that's on a device. And then there's hardware development, which is working for VMware to make virtual machines, or working on embedded chips, or working on microchips. And the last one is research. So like I said before, once you join one of these fields, it's really hard to move to another field if your company will not move with you, or you don't know a lot of people. Okay. So now I'm going to talk about the benefits of each field. So if you join front development field, it's usually the easiest to get into, but it's also one of the most painful fields to stay in because you have to constantly learn. So this is how front-end work usually works. So you make the website in HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and jQuery if it's just a basic website and you don't need a complicated front end. So that stuff, it's very easy to learn. You can pick it up in a month or two, and then you start doing it. But then if you need to do a more complicated site, a lot of people have switched to using a single page application, like using Angular, React, Vue, Ember, Backbone. And these type of applications, you need to be more knowledgeable than just doing basic jQuery, and most sites are doing that right now. Now the issue with front-end development is that when you change your code, it won't always do as you expect it to do. For example, if you make a CSS change on Chrome, it will not appear exactly the same way on Firefox or Internet Explorer or iOS. So instead of testing for one use case in one browser, you have to test it on 8 browsers. So you have to think of backward compatibility with every browser and see how many browser versions you have to support in your project. So that can be a huge hassle. Another issue with front-end development is that every year a new framework comes out, and most companies will not pick up the new framework because it doesn't make sense for the business. But personally, you have to spend extra time to go learn these new frameworks, because if you don't, your knowledge of front-end declines, and if you ever lose your job at your current job, or you want to get a raise at another job, you won't be given the opportunity to learn the new front-end development framework or technique and stuff. So you actually have to go out and spend extra time of your own time learning it, and then when you go for another job, then you can show them that you know how to do it. But basically you have to spend a lot of extra time just to learn it. The next one is backend API development. So backend API development is where you usually create the whole application in the backend. So authentication, storing stuff to the database, doing business logic, handling the API development. So back development, this is where usually people differentiate a lot. So you either, again, depending on which company you join when you first join the industry, you usually will stay in that realm unless someone gives you the opportunity to switch. So if you first come out and become a PHP developer, then most likely you're going to be doing PHP for the next 5-10 years. If you start out doing Java, then you mostly do Java backend API development for the next 5-10 years, and so forth. So be very careful what to choose. My suggestion is try to join a Node backend company, because at least you know JavaScript, and you can, if anything comes down to it, you can always switch to do front-end development because you know JavaScript as well. And Node is pretty easy to pick up, but it's a little bit different than the other API development platforms. So in terms of backend API development, you don't need to learn as frequent as a front-end developer, but your mastery of the system, you need to basically join a really good company to learn it. For example, if you just join like a small agency company that all they do is make basic websites, you will never learn how to create like Netflix level architecture yourself. You would have to go out and try to do it yourself, and you may not do it right the first time because you're just doing it by yourself. So if you want to be a backend API developer, make sure the development company you're working for has actually developed a very well, like, industry standard platform in the backend, so that you can learn from it, and then you can take it and apply it to your next job or your own projects. So that's what I would say about backend development. So WordPress development. So selling WordPress sites is a really huge market out there right now. So you can sell it yourself, or you can join an agency, and the idea is people just want simple company websites, or simple e-commerce stores, or simple membership sites. And for those sites, there's a lot of partial solutions already in WordPress, so it doesn't make sense for you to develop the whole platform from scratch. Like, why would you spend $5,000 to make a new membership site when you can just use a WordPress WordPress theme that's $69, use it and make the platform and just focus on your content. So there's a big industry for WordPress development. So, but the problem is there's a lot of people doing this and you don't really learn a lot. So if your goal is to be like an expert developer and you want to show that like you actually understand how to create scalable platforms, then I would not go into WordPress development. But there's a lot of money in WordPress development, like it's ridiculous. And your development skills will remain amateur for the rest of your career because there isn't much to do in WordPress. You might learn WordPress really well, but again, it's not you don't learn how to scale a platform doing that. The next field is called DevOps. So usually people do DevOps is when they are not really good at development themselves. They like to play around with Linux and Bash and that kind of stuff. So DevOps is really high paying because it's always in demand because most developers aren't really good at it. And again, DevOps is really dependent on the company you join. So if the company you join calls DevOps the same thing as Linux administration, then you're fucked basically. Because your Linux administration is a completely different skill set than DevOps, and DevOps is really dependent on the company you join. If you join a company that does it poorly, then you will never learn. So if you want to do DevOps, make sure you have to join a company that actually does it professionally and learn from them. The next is mobile development. So mobile development is programming iOS, Android apps. So mobile development, I don't personally do myself, but I know a lot of people who do it. And mobile development is very transitional, so you can spend, so if you do Android development, you can spend the next 5-10 years doing Android development only, and you're fine. The best part about mobile development is you don't have to learn a new language, because there's, Android's staying the way Android is. You just need to learn more about the new APIs and stuff. But I think in terms of extra learning to do outside of work, mobile development has the least, and it's also very rewarding. A mobile developer makes roughly the same amount of money as a backend API developer. At the senior level, at the intermediate level, then it depends. Depends on the company. But at the end of the day, it's all roughly the same amount of money. But the best part, like I said before, is that you only have to learn one language and that's all. And you just need to find a good company that actually makes more complicated mobile app development apps so that you know how to make them in the future. The next field is hardware development. I personally have no experience in this area, but they're very close to mobile development in the sense that you learn the language once, so you usually use C or something low-level language, and you don't have to learn any more. It's mostly just applying computer science concepts on hardware, and again, it's like mobile development, so you don't have to keep learning and spend extra time. The last field is research. So this is the field where you go study a topic in computer science, and then you go work for a big company like Amazon, Microsoft, Apple, and you basically apply your research in their platform. Okay, so now that I've told you about each field, I can tell you about the salary range for each one. So of all the salary ranges, WordPress developers, if you work for a company, you probably make the least amount of money. I'm in Canada, so WordPress developers make maybe 60-70K tops, I think. In terms of front developer usually makes less than the backend developer and mobile developer, so maybe tops is like 90K. For backend developer and mobile app developer, their intermediate pay is from like 60K to like 80K, and then if you're really senior, you can get like 110 to maybe 150, but that's very rare. And I don't know much about the other ones too much. So back to the original question, how important is your job for your career? So like I said, the biggest thing you have to look for when you join a new company is 1, what is their tech stack? 2, how willing are they to switch technology. And 3, are there expert people there still that you can learn from? So make sure when you join your first job that people there actually have industry standards, so you can actually pick up and learn from them, and your tech stack isn't super old that if you lost your job tomorrow you can't find another job as easily. And then 3, you want to keep learning what the newest technology is, and then see if you can learn on the side so that you can go jump to another job after. Okay, and that's what I have for now. Thanks for